So hello, everyone. This is the first lecture series that we have for the fall term of 2023. And it's a pleasure to have Michela Lupi with us. And she's going to be talking about community of practice, the spontaneous size of change. Change and transformation are big topics in our program, in the Design Management International Bachelor Program at the Lucerne University of Applied Sciences and Arts. And I will briefly read a paragraph about who is Michela, and then I will share the floor with her so that she can start. So Michela is a sociologist with experience in facilitating and coaching organizations to accelerate the change process. For the students today present, you know that this is not an easy process. She worked with most diverse teams for 20 years. She has recently introduced Synthesys8 or Infinite Program to support people and organizations to rediscover their systemic intelligence with a mix of laboratory, community of practice, and the game of complexity, a self-transformation pathway to raise awareness about that, what complexity is. She works very much with a system thinking approach and with nature. So that is a brief introduction about Michela. So Michela, I don't know if I forgot to say something. And if you are ready to start sharing screen, go. Otherwise, complete the introduction.
Yeah, thank you very much, Guillermina. Thank all of us for your introduction, my introduction. I share the screen so we can start the presentation.
Super.
Okay, is okay, Guillermina?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Hans. I see Hans on the screen. Thank you so much. I'm very exciting to be here with you this afternoon. And especially when I talk about community of practice, I feel always very, very super happy because it's my field. So I want to share with you my thoughts, but first of all, I would like to get your views on community of practice. So I think it will be an interactive session as we can. DDC is a fundamental step for knowledge sharing in the organization and the distribution of the power from hierarchical to network. This is the basic sense of community of practice. And I believe that an interesting way of introducing community of practice is to tell you a story, because I'm passionate about biomimicry and I like observing nature. And I think that from nature, we can learn lots of interesting things. So I share my first slide. Interesting pictures, I think. There's a little animal and a beautiful olive oil trees and some leaves that doesn't feel so good, I think, because they're like burned. I've recently worked in a food company, and in that company, I heard a great example of how community of practice are really interconnected with nature. On certain season, the crop of olive oil is plagued by a parasite that is essentially destroyed the fruits and the plants. And as you can see in the picture, can you see now the plants that are a little bit ill? The agronomist of the company decided to run an experiment to try to combat the parasite without damaging the quality of the olive oil, with minimal usage of chemical substances to fight the disease. Therefore, they divide the land in 3 different areas, each one with different countermeasure, using copper-based reminder on one, chemical pesticides in another one, and on another, they decide to nothing at all on the third one. So nothing. So with some surprise, they discovered that in the third area, a spontaneous herb species was growing. And that was super interesting because it was a naturally repellent to the xylella. This is the name of this funny animal. Improving the resistance of the crop to the disease. So even after when there is a spontaneous circulation of information, there is a cooperation and the overall system is improved without intervention from outside of the system. So I think that we have a good lesson learned. I have a question for you, just a first question. So because I like make questions. So the first question is, does anyone of you has an example of network cooperation inspired from the nature to share with us? So please write in chat, and or if you like to speak with your microphone, how you prefer, Guglielmina, of course.
Yeah, I think that it's easier if they write in the chat.
Yeah.
Or if I see a hand rise, I can activate their voices.
Oh.
So voice. Can you, Michela, can you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. The question is, if does any one of you has an example of network cooperation inspired from nature? So we can share your ideas, your thoughts, or what you have seen. Thank you. This that I described to you, I've seen with my eyes. So for me, this story is very impressive because it was really nice to see this spontaneous herb. They have a not so good smell, but for xylella, this no good smell is they know it's something they think, oh, this is not the good place where I could live. So they move in other trees. So it's very interesting. This is a European project. So I'm talking about a very large area where these trees has been checked and studied during this last, I think, 1 year.
I can try to share an example of natural cooperation, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's an experiment. I like plants. And I have pot plants in the office and in my house. And I started putting in some of them stones that I take from the river. And it could be large or it could be small. But in some of them, when I put the stone, they start growing more or growing in different direction. And I wonder if there are the minerals of the stones or if they can sense the stone. What happens that the growing pattern change?
Yeah, as you see in my perspective, when we leave nature spontaneously, creating process and producing a response, sometimes we have a good combination for the growing of the systems. Do you have another question? Do you have some other thoughts on chat, or I can go ahead?
You can go ahead. Magda, the chat is disabled.
I think you can see now in a question. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Now I can see. Someone asked what exactly is the question. The question is about if you have seen in nature, just observing. My simple perspective is just observing nature, or see if when something in nature is growing spontaneously and they create a mixed combination, they can create something really interesting and really interesting for the growing process. So it's just if you see something around us, just simple things like flower in the balcony or in other place. The researcher from Japan and the UK fed a slim mold with nutrients around to imitate the nodes of the Tokyo subway system. Right, Joel, thank you. Super interesting, right. So from the nature, I think we have lots of answer, of course. Jorge has a raised his hand.
Jorge, you want to say something?
No, I'm just trying to get into the Q&A because I can only see my question I ask. I cannot see anything else. The chat is blocked and the Q&A doesn't show me anything else. So I was just punching around to see if anything reacts.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So let's go on and go inside our world, that organization. What are communities of practice? Of course, I send you a definition that is for our starting point. As you can see, a community of practice is just a group of people that share information, problems, ideas, something they are passionate about, or topics, and they want to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and just for creating something new among their interrelation. The community of practice are very informal structure because people, they can't, not necessarily they have to meet every day, but just meet because they need to meet. And so they have not a strictly scheduled appointment. And they could sometimes have the opportunity to solve problem, just sharing, chit-chatting, and just talking with each other. So the community of practice, the super skill is to be confident with the dialogue, the process of dialogue, the dialogue process. So you have to be very confident with the communication skill, of course. But where are community of practice? Where are community of practice? So in this picture, you can see some different perspective. We can see just people talking in the park. Have you never seen some people that talking on the park? I think so. So just people, for example, old people, young moms that would stay with their babies and just talking, for example, in a park, or old people just talk about their, I don't know, vacation, where is the best place for buy something, or where you can go for your free time, for have some extra routine activities, I don't know, yoga or what else. Or in the school, for example, in the school we can see sometimes not too much, community of practice, so spontaneous group of people that just meet, support each other, and so on. But these are very common things that we can perhaps see every day in every daily life. Then we can go lightly inside the formal organization, because we have noticed it, for example, that inside formal organization, during the year, we have few spaces dedicated to the informal relation. So I want to go to the point. It's necessary that all of us will work and support our multinational or our business organization to open space of informal dialogue, because everything is super, is super standardized. For example, now we have the process map. We have the process that for doing things inside an organization. And how you can see in the picture, I have mentioned 2 cases that I followed and I've studied. That is Médecins Sans Frontières and Deutsche Telekom. I have, for both company, met the HR people of this company, and I have discussed with them how they have developed communities of practice inside of organization. And I've noticed something really interesting. That is an integrational process. So it's not that you remove the formal structure of the organization. Of course, for example, Deutsche Telekom has about 200 people. So we are speaking about a very huge organization like Médecins Sans Frontières, that they have a few branches all over the world. So they are super large organization. In this case, they promote community of practice in different ways. For example, in Deutsche Telekom, they have about 200 communities of practice where people can join daily when and concerning about some issues or theme that are that make sense for the employees. For example, I am in the IT field, or in about sustainability, or about diversity, inclusion, and so they have 200, about 280. I don't remember right now the exact number, but they have a platform dedicated to the community of practice, and every person can propose one community of practice, and people can join if they find the situation, the dialogue interested for us. While in Médecins Sans Frontières, they have a different kind of organization, for example, because they don't have a community of practice super open for every kind of theme, but they are focused in for support all the global community to share different methodology and different practice that they do for promoting the association. So they can share multicultural perspective. For example, people from Switzerland, people from Italy or Canada, they can share the way they promote and they present Médecins Sans Frontières in the territory. So it's very interesting to see how they use this form of open dialogue with no leader inside, because how we'll see later, the community of practice are no hierarchical structure. So this is the point, and there is no someone that tell you what you have to do, but it's just, okay, we let's start to talk, and then we'll see. So, for example, in Deutsche Telekom are very open. They don't have, for example, presentation or materials to share with others, but they have a sort of how do you say, a library where people can download the documents that are interested for the communities, and so you can go there and just downloading and open it. While inside the Médecins Sans Frontières, they have something more structure. For example, they produce some materials that they want to share with all the communities from all over the world. Now I'm very interested in a new case that I'm following during the next in this few days. It's very fresh news for me because I have a large Italian company that is focused on water. And so it's super large company because it's in the most part of Italy, from north to the center. And I've discovered a branch of the company that is very little branch of the company, but it's about 20 people, and they have 150 suppliers that from the outside, of course, of the company, that they have started for the last 4 years working with the agile system, but are integrated with community of practice, like form of dialogue among people. So they don't have they don't follow results, but they are moved by values. So our values are the ingredient that support the systems, and they don't have a leader inside, but just partnership relation among manager. And also with the suppliers, so there is not a hierarchical structure from employees to suppliers. They are in the same page, and I'm very interested in that. My next article will be about this experience, because it's a 4 years experience, so it's a long time. And I'm going to publish the article in the next few days. But if, for example, if you are curious to know more about Deutsche Telekom, I can share with you, if you like, the English articles where you can find more details about how Deutsche Telekom is organized. So I think when I'll at the end of the session, I'll if you agree, of course, I can share the link where you can find the English version of the article. And in the left part of the screen, you can see other big name. You can see Chrysler, Shell, and McKinsey, that it is a consultants company. And also in that case, we have a community of practice ongoing right now. So the first input that I want to share with you is to encourage you to move also inside the multinational company, also is to push the big organization, because we have space for raise awareness, leaders, managers about community of practice. Do you have any questions about this? Have any curiosity or something in your mind?
I do.
Okay.
So how is the process?
Just to check in question, because we have question.
We have questions already in the Q&A.
So I have to go to the chat, right?
Yes.
Q and question and.
Oh, this guy. Oh, yeah.
By Sven.
Sure. I think I have the answer for you in the next slide. So I go deeply about your question. So I'm sure that you see the effect. I have also the title of my slide that is effect in the organization or benefits. So we are on the same page about your questions.
So go ahead.
Guglielmina, do you have an answer? Do you have a question? Sorry for...
No, I said that go ahead so that you can answer Sven's question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, systemic benefits. So I hope that I have an answer for you. So for the organization, we have to focus, because first reaction when I work with the organization, because I daily spend time inside organizations. So I see the reaction in their face when I talk about community of practice or action lab, or what else you want to say, right, Guglielmina? There are lots of different names how you can approach the concept or of a community of practice. But we know that technically there are community of practice, but then you can put over the dress that is better for them. But for the organization in the first phase, they are very, oh my God, what is it? I lose control of my people and of my business. So we have to spend time for encouraging organization to see the benefits. And there are lots of benefits. First of all, I think that some very, simple and funny, like less meeting finally, because if you use this kind of system, you can schedule less meeting while you work constantly in an open dialogue. So you have not to wait for the meeting on 10 on Monday. So I think it's a more flowing dialogue. And you can an opportunity for solving problem. Community of practice have the best place for solving problem. And identification of strategic plans and more connection with the institutional part of the organization means that with community of practice, we can open discussion among, for example, the industrial part of the company and the employee part of the company, and the unions that are inside the company, so you can open the dialogue with each people. So it's a place where you can start to create also the network among people that generally they could stay, in silos in different place. For people, of course, is the best. If you want to work with motivation, engagement, you have the answer. Community of practice is the answer. You want to create a new learning opportunity. I would like to underline this part of my speech about alternative learning opportunities, because I think, and this is only my perspective, and I think that organizations spend lots of money in learning program. And sometimes this learning or training program don't really fit with the real needs of adults people. So the alternative, and that is less expensive, and not just for money, but for, our organization are very sensitive about money. So it's the best place where you can create an alternative learning opportunity without investing lots of money. And in the meantime, you have the benefits in terms of learning, knowledge, and technical skill. For example, for the technical skills, are the best solution are community of practice, like was in the about 14th century. So it's an old story where there were the people that stay together learning something, like Michelangelo in the past. He was on a super huge and super interesting community of practice. So I think it's an alternative learning way, the way it is slide free, people talking, sharing practical things. So people is more engaged, more involved, and happy to stay there. I have seen people really change the way where they stay inside the community in respect the classical training program. And the last one is the opportunity to receive feedback in a safe space. I would like to underline this last part for saying that generally when we are inside training program, we have there is the role of the teacher and then the participants. So it's the same pattern that we have already experimented during our school period. So someone that evaluates us and give us if you are okay or not okay concerning some skill. When you are in a community of practice, you receive feedback in a safe space because you have not the evaluation process is not on, but it's on off. And so you can receive feedback in a safe space, like you feel in a trust environment where there is the trust and cooperation among people without feeling that someone is judging us. So this is, I think, is very interesting. And when I for example, this morning I facilitated a community of practice, then I tell you the role of facilitator. And I've seen people that their feedback was, for me, as I've been this time that we have spent together, I have felt finally that nobody has give me the evaluative feedback, or I feel in a very safety space. So the psychological safety now is really important. And so I think that community of practice could give this kind of answer. And of course, like affect is that you can boost your self-confidence. So you feel more, you feel more strong and able to share your thoughts. And also people that never talk. When you're in a community of practice, they start talking. So it's it's something that tell us that we can try to stay together in a different way. So this is my systemic benefits that I've mapped during my experience. Do you have any question about this? And if I don't know if I have the answer to the question that Sven did in the chat.
Sven, did Michela answer your question, or would you like a follow-up?
And please, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to share.
You wrote in the chat that yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sven. Thank you so much. And how I have described the evolution of community of practice, because when a community of practice starts, we have three main phases. We have an initial engagement where people start, to discover that they have something in common, and they start to talk together, but the group and the environment is still very uncertain. Then there is the active participation, where people starting to share documents, ideas, information, and how they would like to work inside the community of practice. So they start to create the rules, because a community of practice is not a place where, of course, you can say whatever you want, but you have to share the rules with other people. So they created the communication rules. How we want to define a solution, for example, how we want to create our decision-making process, or, for example, how we want to share our ideas or giving feedback, for example, in which way we want to receive feedback from the others. So all these kind of questions that are about how we communicate with each other can be also discussed when the groups start to be active. And at the beginning, this active participation phase, probably the role of a facilitator could be helpful for the community if they think that they could be useful, of course, because we're not obliged to stay there, but just to propose at the beginning how to support this new field of community. Then and very soon we support this community to operate in autonomy, without a coordinator. But in case, for example, of conflict, or if something goes wrong, they could ask to a person that is from outside the system to come in and to support the group for find the resolution, for example, in case of conflict. So also in this case, there is could be because the interesting thing is that the community of practice is not a closed system.
Mm-hmm.
The community of practice is like in nature, is an open system. Then they can select and they can choose who is the person that could come inside or not. For example, if they need some expert, for example, we can figure out, for example, a community of practice concerning sustainability. We have an expert in our company, and so we can invite him to share his thoughts, for example. So, or in case of conflict, we can call a facilitator or a coach or HR manager if you are inside the company. So it depends, but they can select a person from the outside that can support them and help them. For example, when they in this huge organization, like I show you before, they have people from different countries, for example, that support the country leader, and they support them in case of conflict, for example, inside the group. So it depends, but they are open, not closed system. How community of practice works in terms very practical. They have a scope. of something they want to to exchange. Okay, the participation is free. So nobody can be obliged to say, okay, now you are scheduled in the community practice number 3. The boundaries are open, like I said before. So if someone wants to invite someone else, or they ask to the group, and the person could come in. And the good or not so good response about what holds a community or practice together is the passion. And the engagement. There are no other ingredients. So we have really to be passionate about some theme or some arguments. And we have to accept that it is community practice is not something that live forever. We can say, okay, now after I just make an example. After our 10 meetings, I think that we have done and we obtain our results, and now we are no more interesting to stay together. Or perhaps we'll open another community, but as needed is the time that are open a community. And the development is not linear, because they have no milestone or something that is super scheduled before the beginning. When we start to have an experience inside the community or practice, people generally at the beginning feel a sense of uncomfortable, because they don't really feel which is the story. They don't see the story. They don't see the process. So at the beginning, they are a little bit uncomfortable. But then during the time when you start to make this kind of experience, you feel more, in a natural place. I think where we have to live more and spending more time in our daily life. So my suggestion in your future is to support and in your learning program, in your learning institution, in your organized business institution, to support this kind of communities, because it is an experience of connecting ourselves with our nature. So I think it's very important to make this kind of experience. Otherwise, when we are in a no boundary space, we feel like we are not confident with the sense of freedom in a certain way. So I think this is my experience. I would like to share with you some tips to design a community of practice. So we have some practical themes. I'm a very practical person, so I would like to give you some very practical things. So first of all, when you think to propose or to create a community of practice, we have to make a design for the future, for the evolution. So we have to move about something that is going to come. And so this is a good booster for the starting point. And the second tips is to be confident with open a dialogue between outside and inside perspective. So outside, there are people that I like to tell you before, people, for example, expert for other field that come inside, and the inside perspective. So the dialogue has been to multidisciplinary conversation from different field and from different perspective. Because the most interesting thing in a community practice is to have change of perspective. So it's very important at the beginning to invite people to open the boundaries, and also support a different level of participation in terms that not all people, when stay inside the community of practice, have the same level of participation. For example, there are just people that stay there and listen to others, or some people that have more, talk a little bit more, And so also accept that people have different way to stay with others. So we have not to be, we have the same behavior. If you want, just talk. My last community of practice where I was a member, there was a person that has never talked, but at the end he has created some interesting videos that has shared with us, and was the synthesis of all of our dialogue, because he was a visual learner. So it was a visual learning person. So we have to accept different level of participation. Then foster both formal and non-formal community space. In terms that sometimes we could go in the formal organization, proposing something or sharing some project, and so we move to formal structure, and sometimes we have informal, we are inside the informal, non-formal or informal structure of dialogue. So we move, we don't stay there and just, just talking. We are producing something sometimes. Focus on values, like we say before, and again, informal and informal communication in terms of sometimes we have to talk very, friendly or with no structures. Sometimes we need to create some rules. So it depends. And so we switch from different level of communication. And the last one is try to create a sort of rhythm of the community. I know that, like I told you before, that there are no rules inside the community of practice, but it's very useful at the end, and our brain like to have certainty. And so I know that it works if we create a rhythm, for example, once a week, once a month, every month, I don't know, every 2 weeks, just for creating this movement. And I think that this could be useful for, good effect of our design. Because when we talk with the organization, I figure out your future, and so I imagine you when you go to design, to change design inside the organization. You have to project something. You have to show to your client something. Because if you just say create communities of practice, is not enough. They want to see something more in details. So in this case, I think that to have these tips could be useful when you write your project, for example, and for your client. And at least I have some question for you. Before to say, for your perspective, how can we foster community of practice in our organization? This is the real question, because I think that understanding what is a community of practice is not so difficult, but it's very intuitive from my perspective. But we have to do something. We have to do a tough work sometimes, because our organization are also formal, and to say that you can do things different, obtain more result than other models, sometimes it's going to be tough. So for your perspective, what can we foster community of practice in our organization? Then I have other question for you.
There's another question in the chat, then after we can see. And Loite, can you try to see you can write in the chat, or otherwise you can write in the Q&A? But apparently the chat is now open.
Okay.
And in the meanwhile, I can answer, how can we foster communities of practice? I think that in my experience, the the common ground is the topic or common interest to change the situation.
Yeah.
So it could be changing design education, for example. It could be changing or learning about something that, and the learning process is part of the change process. And as you were saying before, you don't need to engage in having a formal training. You can spontaneously start meeting and exchanging. So that's in my experience. And now I close the microphone.
Okay, I see. What are the barriers here? Hans, can you help me to understand deeply your question, please? If you like, of course. Or,
yeah, Caspar, you can talk.
Yeah, or you can write. Oh, what do you prefer?
Caspar, can you hear us?
Probably no.
It's mute, so
Yeah.
I have another question for you if you like to talk, and you can also open your microphone if you like, and to feel like a community or practice to make a little bit of chaos, and try to also to think about what does it mean for you, formal and informal communication, about learning process, for example, that is your experience right now, because you are students. So you can also have an observation about yourself.
we have another question from George in Q. You can see.
Oh, okay. Where is Maya? Sorry.
It is a possible answer, a shared purpose, a variety of points of view that enriches everyone's knowledge.
I can see the answer.
In the Q&A, Jorge Frascara wrote, this is a possible answer, a shared purpose, a variety of points. Can you see the Q&A, Michela?
No.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Aspetta, yes, Q&A, but I don't see the chat is I cannot, no. Okay, no, this is a possible answer. Thank you, Jorge, sorry. I share purpose a variety of points of view and reach everybody's knowledge. Yeah, of course, sharing the purpose. The purpose is very important to focalize and to maintain focus and to define the focus of the communities, because the first step and the first obstacle could be, which is the focus, no? Which is the object of our dialogue. And but I have to say something that could be a little bit different, that at the beginning especially, never mind about the focus and the special object. We cannot accept just talking about something that's very macro. And so I suggest just to move inside the complexity, because it's really interesting at the beginning that you really don't understand anything about the results or the action. So people is very action. No? What I have to do. The first question is what I have to do. What we are going to do now. But I also say that the verbs do has to attend to the third meeting. So at the beginning, just explore how or the sense of why we here. So wait, just say wait to the verb, to using the verbs do.
Michela, you mentioned the term dialogue,
yeah,
and trust.
Yeah,
both are not straightforward, and they are very dependable. So what will be your suggestion or your points regarding how do we foster trust so that we can have dialogue?
Mm-hmm. I have two perspective about your answer. That the first one is that another word that is accountability. Mm-hmm. So when you are inside a community of practice, you are accountable about yourself and what are you decided to spend time in this kind of community. So everyone is accountable about him or herself, and so I think that we have not to foster trust like something very mechanical, with mechanical strategy. So exercises with to develop trust or something like that. I think that less is more in this case. Less stress or less elements that could disturb the system is the better solution. So I suggest not to just leave the system and trust to the process. I say that I trust on the community of practice process, and that's enough. I'm sure that something will happen.
So a natural flow.
Yeah. And the trust not in what but in how. So how is the community of practice process?
Uh-huh. How long does it take?
It depends. Generally, I have seen that all at the first meeting or in the first relation, and it works. It starts immediately. We have not to wait too much. I just because I think that at the beginning, it depends, of course, because if you are in a school environment, students could create their community of practice, for example, in autonomy. But for example, say the organization, like I said before, could be useful to have a facilitator just for support and to help in the community, from the community to emerge the rules and they want to share. Or if you have a super large organization, they could create, for example, documents for some tips how a community works. For example, if you have any idea of what it is. So it depends. You can create documents, you can have a facilitator, or you can just have a self-experience with incompletely autonomy, so without any external person. It's very different, the engagement of the external inside the system.
What will be the skills of the facilitator?
The skill of a facilitator, first of all, is has to be a person that has a really first a self-awareness and first of all, because I think if you don't work on your life and how you feel and which are your patterns of response inside the process dialogue, or managing emotion, for example, or empathy or optimism. So I think that you have a sort of different emotional intelligence skills from my experience. So if you spend time practicing meditation, emotional intelligence, I think that you'll be more able to support the space. Because when I see the role of facilitator inside the community of practice, I see someone that has the role to maintain the space. Mm-hmm. That's all. That's all. Less I disturb the dialogue processes, better it is. For example, in my last experience, I was in a corner of the room, and I just was waiting for the group, and it was the first meeting, and I stay in the corner of the room, and I've decided with them that I'll be enter inside the group only when they find the things useful for them. So they have called me just 2 times, and then I get out.
So you can choose to be more outside, or you can choose to be more active.
More outside.
Yeah. How do you decide that? How do you decide when to guide and when to interact more?
Yeah, I really don't decide this, but I wait for. I'm staying in waiting for the group response.
Okay.
If I say that the conflict is starting, of course, I can say, "Can I help you?" Or if you are too much, confused with the group. But generally, I just wait.
Do you think that listening is also part of the skills?
Yeah, you have to be a super listener.
What is to be a super listener?
That it means that you have be able to have capacity to see yourself inside them, to see the group that is working, and to have the zoom out process where you see both moving inside the space. And so I think this different kind of perspective could help us to have the superpower of listener in terms that you are able to observe all the interaction, but also to observe yourself inside the space.
So it's like looking from above, the system.
Yeah.
Looking the ecosystem from above.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And that might require a lot of attention. And you were talking about self-awareness, but awareness about all that is going on in that ecosystem at that time. Is it exhausting? Is it?
Yes, it's an energy consuming in a certain way, because you have to be, in a open self-awareness. So is a energy spending, is an energy consuming. Yeah, I think it's natural, because energy is the important resource for a system. For maintain a system, we need energy. So also people in the group has to be energized from their community experience.
How do you energize them? What were our tips for energizing?
For energize them, in this case, not too much. In sense that I am not their motivator. I'm not I just a person that. Yeah, I just feel that I'm safe for the space. So I don't dare just to say, yes, we can go ahead and singing together for the next meeting, or I'm just joking, just for saying that if they don't want to see them again, is okay. So I don't feel the pressure of the performance.
Yeah.
And they don't, and they have not to feel the stress for the output or the results. If they're just trying to be a community, okay. And if it doesn't work, it's okay.
Yeah, we are on the hour, but I have one more question. You were talking about a safe space, so is confidentiality important? So what is discussed in that community remains in the community?
It depends. I think generally it depends of the theme, of course, because if they are a theme about sustainability or about, systemic thinking, it's possible that you can open the system, and also what you have here inside is you can put this outside. So why not? It depends. I think that the group can decide these rules, for example.
Yeah.
Especially if you work in a business, sometimes it could be helpful to say, okay, we are a community of practice of our legal system. So we decide to talk with all the lawyer of our company around the world, but we have to say that, okay, our conversation will be confidential, so they can do that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Would you like to stop sharing? And I don't know if the audience has more questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you find something interesting for you, for your study, also for your future. I don't know if you have some idea to create some community of practice around your world. Even if it's a neighbor or or school or university or your next job.
Hopefully, yes. I can see several of our students here, instructors, and I also see some alumni. And some of them are in relation to facilitation. So, and it's very nice to see them coming back to the events. So if someone have a question, there is a question in the Q&A, right? No,
I put in chat the article that I mentioned at the beginning about the Deutsche Telekom case study that is in English. If you
that's great. And Cecilia wrote in the Q&A, how do you know that the space you have created is safe? That's a very good question.
How do you know? Good question, Cecilia. I think that I have not to have this kind of answer, because it's not only my responsibility to know if there's a safe space. I think that safety space, I think this is very natural. I've never seen a group that starting to stay in a community spontaneously doesn't feel this sense of trust. So I think when you stay in a place spontaneously, trust will grow.
That's a good point. So it have to be, it's related to motivation.
Yeah, it's related to motivation, and is also related to, like you say before, that you trust in the process, not in what happens, and not in the words that flow.
Yeah,
because at the end you are not really interested about the point of view, of the perspective of other people. You just trust in the process that something will happen. We don't know what, but
something will emerge.
Yeah, right.
So how would you describe, we have some of the first year students here, and they are just starting to understand systems. And so how would you describe these immersions? How do you know that something is emerging?
I think at the end of something, when something emerge, of course, there are different kind of results. Something are very practical, so they produce, something that is visible for all the community, and also outside the community, also outside the system. For example, when they work in the community of practice in sustainability, they told me that people of the community started to make some action for the work environment. So they create some initiative or some something new about this theme. And so I think at the end is something visible. Yeah, something visible that you can see, that you can put inside the world.
Okay. I see that Maher put in the chat the link of the project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was thinking about Maher because he also worked on his thesis on the topic of dialogue. He created a dialogue 10.
But for next time.
For next time? Okay, good.
Yeah, the theme of dialogue is really interesting. Also, the difference between discussion and dialogue has to be clear, especially at the beginning of a community or practice. So discussion is when you divide things, and from the Latin origin of the word, and so is when you divide. Dialogue when you put together. So from the Latin expression, dialogue means putting things together. And so I am very, I support the use of the word dialogue when I stay inside the group. And when they hear the word discussion, I discourage to use it and then explain, of course, why. But I think words make difference.
My husband makes a difference between debate and conversation.
Yeah.
Foster the use of conversation where.
Yeah, conversation, dialogue are the same roots.
Yeah, yeah. So I know we have passed 7 minutes for the hour and you have a family waiting.
I didn't see the time because I was, I spent really a nice time with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, really, Guillermina, Maher, for inviting me. For me, it's been a very inspirational experience. And when I talk about this theme, I'm sure that even if something doesn't happen in the past few hours, but something I'm sure will happen in the future. So
yeah, I hope something happens both in the classrooms, maybe in the students, that they start creating some groups or communities, perhaps in the alumni. So several things I hope for. I am optimistic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for your support and your help.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.